All right, so we see trains every single day, right? But have you ever stopped to think about what happens when a massive multi-million-dollar train gets to the end of its lease? You'd think it's as simple as handing back the keys to a car. Well, it turns out it's one of the most complicated and, believe it or not, argumentative processes in the entire rail industry. So yeah, what actually goes down? Imagine this. One company has been running these trains for years, and now they have to pass them on. Every little dent, every worn-out seat, every single component suddenly becomes a huge point of negotiation. It's a massive, high-stakes handoff. And just so we're all using the same lingo, the industry term for all this stuff, the trains, the carriages, the whole shebang, is rolling stock. Keep that term in mind because it's key to understanding just how big of a deal this whole process really is. For years, this whole handover process has been, honestly, a total nightmare. Picture binders and binders full of paper, people arguing over what counts as normal wear and tear, and just endless, time-consuming disputes. The whole thing gets bogged down in paperwork and disagreement. And that brings us right to what the industry literally calls the handover headache. And trust me, for decades, it has earned that name. So let's break down exactly what makes this thing so painful for everyone involved. You can totally see how this just snowballs, right? It all starts with subjective opinions. I mean, one person's minor scuff is another's major damage, and that leads straight to arguments. You've got messy paper trails, so there's no single source of truth. All this just wastes time, keeps trains out of service, and then nobody can agree on who's footing the bill for repairs. It's the perfect storm of inefficiency. But what if you could just get rid of all that? What if you could swap out all the arguments and all the paperwork with cold, hard, objective data? Well, this is where the story takes a really interesting turn, moving away from stacks of paper and onto a sleek, digital platform. I mean, the difference is just night and day. You go from that chaos we were just talking about to a new world that is completely data-driven. Instead of mountains of paperwork, you get a clean, digital audit trail. The whole thing moves faster, and because everybody's looking at the exact same data, people start working together instead of fighting. So, who are the main players in this game? Well, you've got the companies that run the trains day to day, and then you have the owners, the Roscos. These are the companies that own these incredibly expensive assets and lease them out, and you better believe they have a massive interest in making sure their trains come back in good shape. Okay, so how does this new digital way actually work? Let's peel back the layers and look under the hood at the workflow that's designed to completely replace that old paper trail, all thanks to a solution called SmartFleet. At its heart, the concept is brilliantly simple. There's a mobile app that inspectors use right there on the ground, and it feeds everything they find into one central cloud-based system. That means the second an inspector logs an issue in the depot, everyone involved can see it instantly. No more waiting for reports. And this is no longer some random walk around with a clipboard. Nope, it's a super-structured 8-stage inspection. The app literally guides the inspector through every single part of the train, from one end to the other, inside and out, all the way down to the critical gear underneath. It's built so that absolutely nothing gets missed. And the level of detail here is just incredible. The system tracks over 200, that's 200, different condition categories. We're talking everything from a worn-out seat in a passenger car, to the control panels in the driver's cab, to the really critical mechanical systems under the frame. Seriously, every single thing is documented. But here's the real magic. It's not just about finding a problem. For every single issue, the inspector logs a photo, pinpoints its exact location, estimates the repair time, and even projects the material costs. It transforms a vague complaint into a concrete, actionable work order. So that all sounds pretty cool, but what's the actual impact? What's the bottom line from collecting all this data? Well, it creates a very real, very measurable, data-driven difference. First off, get this: a 60% reduction in the time it takes just to do the paperwork for the inspection. Think about that. All those hours spent writing notes, filing photos, and typing up reports, just slashed by more than half. That's a huge win. And that efficiency has a massive knock-on effect. The entire handover process gets done 40% faster. For a rail network, that is enormous. It means trains are back out on the tracks, carrying people and generating revenue way, way quicker. And, of course, all of this translates into big wins financially. Because it's all based on objective data, those endless arguments after the handover, they're practically gone. Companies can predict repair costs with amazing accuracy, and it's crystal clear who's responsible for what. The fights about money just evaporate.
And look, this isn't just a theory. The industry is really starting to take notice. This SmartFleet solution actually won a regional award from the European Railway Clusters Initiative, which is a huge seal of approval that this is having a real impact on how railways are run.
Okay, so we've been deep in the weeds on train handovers. Let's zoom out for a second and ask the big question. Why does any of this really matter? What's the bigger picture here? Well, the thing you gotta understand is that this specific solution for train handovers, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's actually one of more than 30 different solutions that are all designed to bring this kind of digital change to every corner of the rail industry. This is part of a much bigger movement. So if you take away just one thing from all this, it should be these three principles. First, transparency. You replace arguments with data. Second, efficiency. You save a ton of time and money. And most importantly, collaboration. You finally get everyone on the same page, working from a single source of truth.
And that leaves us with one final thought. We've just seen how a pretty straightforward app and a database can solve a messy industrial problem that's been around for decades. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other hidden, paper-heavy headaches in all kinds of industries are just sitting there, waiting for their own data-driven revolution?